Welcome again to the Prof Answers. I get to take some of your difficult, chemistry questions. Just keep sending them in, and I will definitely provide simplified and interesting answers to your question. So, I have a question here. It seems very simple, but I don't know why a few students still find it difficult to comprehend. But let's basically just go ahead and look at the question. Hello, Prof. Kindly explain why an atom is said to be neutral, even though it contains charged particles. Okay, explaining why an atom is neutral, even though it contains charged particles. So let's get down to the basics. Atoms contain subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons. And of course, you know the properties of these particles in terms of their mass distribution and their charge distribution. Electrons are negatively charged, protons are positively charged, while the neutrons are neutral. So let me ask this question. If you are to get engaged in Tug of War, you know that game, Tug of War, and you have 10 people involved in the game, 5 on the left and 5 on the right, and the sum of the mass or masses of the individual involved in the tug of war on the left is equal to the mass of those involved on the right, and every other thing being equal. Let's say it's only the mass that will affect the way they pull one another. So if they have equal, masses on both sides, so in terms of the force that each of the sides will pull, the forces will be the same. Okay, so the weight will be the same. The force with which they pull one another will be the same. So ultimately, you may not see any movement because the resultant force is almost the same. That means it cancels one another out. So let's get back to the atom. If I take an element, let's say helium. Helium has 2 protons and 2 electrons. So we know the neutrons are neutral. So 2 protons, 2 electrons. So protons are positively charged. That tells us that in an atom of helium, there will be 2 positives. Electrons are negatively charged. So if proton has 2 electrons, then there will be 2 negatives. So what will be the net charge? The net charge simply means subtract the effect of the charges, and so we are going to be left with 0 charge. So ultimately, an atom of helium will carry no charge, so it will be neutral. So let's take another atom, sodium atom. Sodium has proton number of 11. So because the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons, so it's going to have 11 electrons. So 11 proton, that represents 11 positives. 11 electron, that represents 11 negatives. So the positives will cancel one another out, and you'll be left with what? You'll be left with no net charge. So the overall charge of that atom will be 0. So let's put everything together. An atom is said to be neutral even though it contains charged subatomic particles, because the number of these subatomic particles are equal. So atom is said to be neutral because it contains equal number of positively charged protons and negatively charged electrons, and these cancels one another out. I think this simplifies this particular question. I'll see you next time. Send in your question and I will definitely give you interesting and simplified answer. Don't forget, an atom is neutral, even though it contains charged subatomic particles. I'm out.